Hello and welcome to Epic Loot Radio. I'm your host, Brian, and joining me, we have a panel of epic proportions, Chaos, Soro, and Rory Khan to talk about the news of the week, video games, looters, but this show is going to be focusing on a couple key topics. We got Tales of Arise that launched this week. We also have the PlayStation event that dropped yesterday, so I'm generally curious as to everybody's thoughts about what's going on. I was not able to watch the event live, but I have seen all the tweets and I've seen the Xbox, PlayStation fans, I guess, using this as a way to try to kick dirt in each other's eyes.
Of course.
It's like any event. Like and then it's like, no matter what, like I see it as both sides always coming out like, we win, clearly, like we're the best. It's like, okay, I'm glad hopefully they find some joy in that world. And then obviously the New World beta has, I guess, launched. It is going live this weekend. And so we're going to be talking about that as well. And it's going to be interesting because I think in the pre-show, we were kind of like coming to the same conclusion, but we'll share you guys our thoughts as well. And if you're joining us on the live show, you can always sound off and help direct the show itself. But before we get into it, I do want to say thanks to Cordell, Vern, WG Productions, and Keelan at Podcast Legend Status, helping to fund the show and keep us going on the air and more. So thank you guys for the support. If you feel like jumping in on that support, check out Ginger Gaming Radio for more information. Let's go around the panel. I'm going to start with Tales of Arise. That is something for me that my plans today got totally out of whack. I was going to say I'm going to finish and publish my Ultimate Controller Guide. It took me a lot longer to get that done for New World, and then I was going to stream some Tales of Arise before the podcast. Obviously that did not happen. And I went to go hover over the buy option for Tales of Arise, and there's like 3 different options. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm about to podcast with some dudes that I know have the answer. What version of this game should I get, and why is it so awesome? I'm gonna start with Rory.
The version of the game is like, that to me is a bit of a rough one. So for starters, I got my version from Bandai Namco. They were kind enough to send me a review code, and they sent me the ultimate version. And there's a lot of DLC in there that I don't necessarily agree with. I should preface this by saying I love the game. The game's amazing. I'm enjoying the story. I'm like 30 hours in. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm really enjoying the story. I love the visuals. I love the animations. I think the game itself is really working for me. Like, I'm really enjoying the crap out of it. But like I was saying, the DLC that is in some of these things, I'm not a massive fan because, like I was saying on the pre-show, the first sword they give you in the game deals 30 damage. The sword that you can get from the DLC, which is available like the second you're able to equip a sword, deals 130 damage.
Are you effing kidding me?
No, this is an actual thing.
And that's the $100 edition?
I don't know.
I think
the one that I have is the Ultimate Edition, but I think the Deluxe Edition has this as well, because I was looking at the Deluxe Edition earlier on stream. So it's like you can just get a sword that deals 100 more damage. Then it's like, to give you an idea, I have right now like 15,000 gold in the game. One of the editions also give you like 100,000. They give you XP and a bunch of stuff. So there's also costumes. The costumes, I think it's fine, like the cosmetics and whatnot. To me, that's totally cool, no problem. But like all of the other stuff, I was like, I kind of don't like that this gives you in-game advantages on the DLC. That's one of the things that does bother me. So
is there
which
version in this game?
No.
Okay.
So which version should you get? It's really up to whether or not you like the costumes and whether or not you want to have that early game advantage, which I don't think you need necessarily, but you know, it's there. I've never been a huge fan of that stuff. One of the things that I do like is, though, the game doesn't rub it in your face like Ubisoft tends to do with Assassin's Creed, though. So that's, you know, so at least there's that. It's there. There's a menu option, but they don't like constantly call it up. Hey, you should check out our store. Check out the thing. But yeah, so Tales of Arise is a really fun game. I'm playing it on the hardest difficulty. There's a lot of cool combat mechanics to it. There's like all these boosters. I mean, if you've played the demo, you'll have an idea of what the combat is like. But the cool thing about it is just that art style coupled together with the animations during the combat is really makes everything click. You got perfect evades, you got perfect parries, and the objective, as with every Tales game, according to what people tell me, is you get your combo score as high as you possibly can. Even though it's a JRPG, in a lot of ways, it's also kind of like almost like a fighting game, because your whole thing is like, how many combos can I chain together using all of these characters, and how high can I make the combo go? And when you get to a certain point of the combo, you get to do like a finisher attack that just like one shots a lot of the enemies, not all of them. So obviously you're not going to one shot bosses, but it's just a ton of fun.
There's not like a $200 edition to one shot a boss.
No.
Like
Doesn't that come
double,
with a figurine?
the double
I think
ultimate edition?
Even with the 130 damage sword, I think that if you're playing on the hardest difficulty, you'll get by early on, but you'll start struggling reasonably fast as well, I think.
Question then to the panel. Anybody else here playing Tales of Arise and have any thoughts about the different versions?
Not yet. I've been looking at it and been on the fence for a little bit, but continue to look at the gameplay and trailers and stuff like that. I might just pull the trigger.
I will pick it up at some point. Oh, sorry. I thought you finished.
No, you're good. Go for it.
I will pick it up at some point. It's just I've got so much I'm playing through at the moment. I know if I pick it up right now, it's going to sit there. In terms of the extras, if there is no PvP, it doesn't really bother me. It will only bother me if I gain an advantage in PvP. If it's PvE only and it's only for a short time to boost me, at the very, very early point of the game, which I assume that's exactly what it is.
Yes.
A few hours into it, that 130 damage sword is going to be redundant anyway.
No. Yeah.
I think that's fine. I mean, if it was like a weapon that gave you 600-700 damage and that took you like 30 hours into the game, then I'd be like, okay, that's a bit of a problem, because it ruins that aspect of the game where you're looking for a better weapon to improve your thing. Yeah. So, but even with these versions of the games, the only one I'd go for is either the base version or the one with a figurine. It's one or the other. I'm a sucker for figurines. I got my Xenos over there. He's badass. So yeah, when it comes to figurines, I'm a sucker for that. So if I like the franchise, I'll go for the big one. If I don't, I'll get the base one.
I've enjoyed the Tales franchise for a long time. That's where it's like with this one, this kind of fell at an inopportune time, especially with them talking and having the New World Open Beta. Let's go ahead and we can kind of talk about that, because for me, like from a content creator perspective, I was talking with Vulcan and it's like, well, yeah, I probably should jump in and test the system out just to kind of give people some like updated thoughts about the patch notes. And then I can also capture footage that I can share, up till the 28th, and then I'll have like the actual game. But there's a fatigue there in that regards of like, I'm really just ready for the game itself. And so from a tester perspective, the fact that progress doesn't carry forward into the main game is a massive disincentive to it. And I guess I've been spoiled because we've seen many games where progress carries forward. Outriders did this, and you saw people like consume the beta to an unhealthy degree. And so I think that was for anything. If there was one change I would make to the New World Open Beta, it would be that progress would carry forward, because I think that gets people playing and ready to go. What do you guys think about that?
I think that betas are supposed to be betas, and I mean, even though it's an open beta, but it's like, I don't know if they're ready to release the game yet, right? Maybe they're still taking some feedback on this. Maybe they're going to be changing some systems. But personally, I'm just like, look, I've played the game twice already. Oh crap! Give me a second. Oh, you're good.
Yeah, you played the game twice.
I've played the game twice already, and therefore I'm just not interested in going at it for a third time.
Yeah.
It's like, and not to mention that from what I can tell, they still haven't changed that starter experience, right? It's still the same thing back and forth. If I have to do that like 4 times, I'm probably going to burn out on the game before I even begin. So, yeah.
I mean, that's my biggest problem. I like betas, but I generally jump into them with the offset of, do I like it? Is it for me? I use the beta as a gauge. Is this something for me? I'll test it out a bit, but I won't dive too far into it, because if I have to do all that again, I won't do that the second time around. I just won't be bothered to do it.
Yeah. Delvin in chat says that progress should be. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Progress has to be wiped.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I mean, they could have easily set that to what Outriders did within a certain, level. So let's say up to level 10.
Mhm.
And then you can't gain any more XP after that. You can't gain any more quest progress. You can't gain any, money after a certain cap. So it completely desensitizes you from progressing any more forward, but you can like go and gather materials and stuff if you wanted to. So there are ways to keep you playing and get you interested
Mhm.
while blocking your progress waiting for the full release. So it can be done if they wanted to. It's just a lot more hassle.
I just question what the purpose of the beta is. I want to go to Soro. We talked about the fact that you haven't downloaded it. You're waiting for release. I think it's generally the panel is like who have either pre-ordered or plan to play. Just like, okay, well, I'll wait till the 28th. What do you think?
I've already did the opening mission twice. Why do I want to do it a third and then a fourth time?
Yeah, it's not just the third time. It's still the next time. Yeah.
Like I've already done it twice. I know what to expect there. Why do I need to do it 2 more times to get into the game? Like I get to test the system. I understand that, but still, I'm just gonna wait. From what I've seen and what I played in the second beta, I think they're on the right track. I think they know what they're doing. Even though, Amazon Game Studio is not huge. Like I can't say, yeah, I have complete faith in these guys. But from what they've shown me with the first 2 closed betas and what they continue to say, hey, we're working on this, we're working on that. I have enough faith in them to go, okay, yeah, do what you guys need to do, and I'll be sitting here ready for it when you guys are ready.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going through all that again. The second, third, fourth time is going to be just a hassle.
Were you going to say something, Chaos?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's a 2-pronged situation. Number one, it's to stress test the servers, like Delvey is saying. But secondly, the previous gameplay options for New World have been closed beta, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the first one that's open beta. So for those people that haven't made the purchase, that haven't dived in yet, this gives them that opportunity to try it out before the 28th to see if it's for them. Because not everyone wants to pre-order just to, be able to get into a beta.
Yeah.
If a company does that, I generally stay away from it because I don't like that at all. I think that's really, I'll say it's scummy. I think if you want to get your people interested in the game, just open it for a weekend, let everyone try it. If the servers go down because it's crashed, fine. At least you know that there's a lot of demand there right now. Open up more servers. But this is their first time to get other people who haven't pre-ordered the game to try the game. So I think that's what this session is really for, to try and sway a few more people to buy the game if they enjoy it.
So that's just where I think, from that perspective, because it's that outside of that group, because I think that group has been primarily on the fence, right? I don't like the pre-order to get access to the beta. That's why I was really surprised that Amazon delayed the game originally from its August date to September 28th. That was a surprising update because they actually went and looked at the feedback that they got from the closed beta and said, we're not ready. We need this much time. We're going to go and take that much time. And my experience so far with the open beta has actually been much, much smoother. I ran into one audio issue so far, and where it wasn't the audio completely dipped out. It was the volume got cut by 80%. And so I was like, okay, well, that was strange. Restarting that fixed it. But overall, my experience with the open beta has been something enjoyable. But the only reason for me that I was going in is that I've been covering this game for 18 months. And I plan on playing this game on the 28th because I'm more than anything excited that my progress carries forward. So usually my thought process is I would have rather than put a level cap of 15, so you could start into the PvP and then say, great, thanks for helping us stress this out, or whatever that level range would be. And then your progress carries forward if you're interested in continuing to play. Game launches on the 28th because it is open in that regards, because that way you could get people who, like me, want to go in and get ready for the 28th, and then gives everybody the thing is that if you're pre-ordered or not pre-ordered, everybody can go. And then if you do decide to play, then you can pick up right where you left off on the 28th. But for me now, that's why I was like, I've tested it. It feels really good. I'm not going to invest any more time into it because it's literally getting wiped out. I'm going to go play Tales of Arise. And then I got busy working on this guide. And that's why I was like, bringing it all full circle. I have to say, like, I was like, oh man, like this might be a really fun week. Like I've done everything at 14. New World doesn't come out to the end of the week. Tales of Arise is out. Like maybe this is going to be what I'm going to do. And so hopefully I get some time this weekend. And I'm probably going to get the Ultimate because it isn't a multiplayer. Because the thought that I had, and I want to ask Rory this, and I want to go to the panel. Do games cost $60? I don't think they do. They do.
Do games cost $60? Okay, the old $60 discussion. So my argument towards that, and this is very much a layman's argument, is the fact that look, games cost. You can argue that games cost more expensive now because of the fact that we're doing games that are much more. How should I call it? Much more visually. The visual fidelity has increased, right? And that's one of the main reasons. The art assets have more resolution, all of this stuff. But it is also important to say, and this is something that nobody ever really talks about, it's also very important to say that game development tools have also evolved. And they've become much more efficient at developing those games. So it's like, Again, this is one of those things where I wish that I had more information and more knowledge on game development world, because I don't think it's a black and white thing of like inflation go brrr, therefore game price must go brrr as well. It's like, I don't think it's that linear, because for starters, there's a much bigger audience. So there's many more people buying video games. There's better tools to develop video games. So that needs to be taken into account as well. And, I don't know exactly whether or not it is fair that it is 60, 70, 80. In Portugal, like a PlayStation 5 game costs people. 70 euros. 70 euros is like $90. Yeah. Maybe 80 something, right? Along those ranges.
I think Brazil also has like outrageous prices.
Okay, dude, we don't talk about Brazil. I remember at one point, listen.
I'm sorry. I forgot.
No, let me explain to you why. I don't mean this in a negative way. I mean, like, you can't take Brazil's market into account because it's just a completely different thing. Like, look, if you're in Brazil and you want to go buy an iPhone, it's cheaper to fly to America, stay there for a week, buy the phone, and then fly back than it is to buy the phone in Brazil. Okay. When I was there, I remember seeing a PlayStation Vita selling for what accounted for like 1,500 euros, which is 10 times the price I paid for mine. So like the market in Brazil is just completely fucked. We can't, it can't be used for anything.
Can we say something awesome about the Brazilian people though? Like, they're amazing.
Dude, Brazilian people, here's what I can say awesome about Brazilian people. Overall, the Brazilian people are extremely nice. They're very, very nice. Like, I've been there. They're super nice people, super chill. They just want to have a good time.
They're late by American standards. My wife was in Brazil for a while. My wife's the world traveler, and it's like they prioritize the personal relationship and that conversation. So they're really, like, when you think of about it, like from an American perspective and mindset of productivity and timeliness and meetings and, oh, I got to go, I have a meeting kind of mindset. Yeah. Like, she was like blown away. And so that's my weird random fact of the Brazilian people that I was like, I do appreciate that. I've worked with a handful, and it's like, yeah, like you had these really great conversations. And then the downside is like, oh, but I have to go. Like, I'm so sorry. Yeah. And then like, I hope to God I'm not insulting anybody from Brazil. Anyway, that random educational facts here on Epic Loot Radio, guys. That's why you subscribe and like and all that good stuff. Go ahead.
But yeah, it's like, what is your thought on the whole $60 thing? Because I mean, you brought that point up. Yeah. I'm sure you got something that you want to say about it.
Well, I do want to say something about it. I want to get a Soro, and I want to get Chaos's kind of thoughts, especially as it relates to that. Because when I see a game that has DLC that's a $60 game and then it goes up to quickly $100, like in my mind, I think games have become $100, but they just kind of have a starter edition that starts at 60. Chaos, do you have any insight?
Yeah. First of all, in regards to what Chili said, $70 is how much we in the UK pay for our PlayStation 5 exclusive games made by Sony, and that's roughly about $100 when you convert it.
£70.
Not 80. It's about 8. It's about, I just converted it. It's roughly about $100. In regards to your question, I think You know, 60 pounds for a game is okay. Where they have the extra DLC, you know, the added extras, and they fluff it up all the way up. If it comes with a season pass, I think I'm willing to pay for it. But I'm generally not okay with like these £100, £120 editions. I think it's just them trying to fleece more money. It comes back to the old 60, £70 argument where Microsoft has decided to keep their games at £60. Sony said we're going to increase it to 70. I don't mind paying £70 for a game if it has no DLC. No microtransactions. But if you're going to put a microtransaction store in there and still charge me 70, 80, 90 quid in there, that becomes a bit of a problem for me.
Oh, we got a phone call coming in on Soro.
Sorry.
You're good, man. What do you think about the current pricing model?
I think you also got to take into effect that there are more gamers today than there were, you know, X amount of years ago. So even if, you know, the game cost $60 5-10 years ago, they're still making more off of the same price today than they were back then, because there's more people buying it. But also, in my opinion, I really don't care how much the game costs as long as it's not $400, you know? If it's something that I like, if it's an IP I like, if it's a game that I think looks good and that I know I'm going to play, or that, you know, something small like I know my daughter's going to play.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, as long as it's not $400, I'll buy it. You know, make it the $100 if you absolutely have to. If it's something that my daughter wants to play or that I know I want to play, I'll drop the $100 on it. It might take me a little bit to, you know, get the money set aside just to get it, but I'll get it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a gamer dad for you in that regards. Especially it's like, oh, if my kids want it, it's like I have to, for me, try to balance that out, because I don't want to be like, oh yeah, you get everything you ask for. Because then I don't want to sit here and send kids off into the world, and they're like, "Oh, Dad will buy this for me." It's like, okay. Well.
I also have the one. You have 20. So,
but that's also an argument for playing games over anything else. Like, you want to go to the movies? Like, I think taking the kids to the movies, like from a cost perspective wise, is like I could easily get a game. That's why. Like, just on that note though, like that's why I really don't like the free to play model. Because of like how it trains them to kind of like expect games, and we've seen that already. Like that's why I say the free to play model won. Maddie's like, oh, can I play this game? And it's like constantly asking her for money, and she's a kid and she has no concept of what you have to do to get money. And it's like, okay, well, you don't even understand what $5 is, and don't go talk to your grandpa because he pays.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Like honestly, where his scale came from. I don't know if anybody's been like this, but like me working for my dad, it's like, here's a quarter, son, enjoy it. My niece working for my dad is like, here's an iPhone. You know, like I'm talking about like what happened in the time that I left home. Like the man started like paying, and then it's like nowadays, like, oh my gosh. But I bring it up because when I see those kind of scales and the fact that it's a standalone game, it's like, okay, it gives people options, right? But when I see the debate around games being made and the cost of them, like Rory, you hit on the two really good arguments. More players, you know, so the market has grown. People buy games that helps offset that cost, right? Like you can see, because when you look at what's the fair market value, it's where demand and price and supply, you know, kind of meet. Like, hey, we got enough in the digital edition, we could supply this game to more people, more sales. We don't have to increase the overall price. The other side of it is tools and things that have gotten better. But I think the things that when I look at the overall price of games, and we see this, like it's kind of I think it's missed a lot, but it's in terms of risk and investment. When I look at the market and we see, Fortnite as a free to play game bringing in $2 billion, when we saw World of Warcraft having 12 million subscribers, like from an investment perspective, I see a lot of people putting money into buckets around what is the new hotness. That's why like we see the different rollout of various battle royales, etc. So when it comes down to it, like when you factor that and you factor the risk of a game, whether it's a new IP or not, new IPs specifically, the fact that we get those, I think is really telling and exciting. The fact that we get a game like, Tales, that's a single player JRPG and not a battle royale, like, print cash money mobile phone game.
That's not, it's not really a new IP though.
Well, no, but I mean, like the fact that the fact that it is a series does help out a lot. Like that helps out immediately. Just from a numbers perspective, one of the things is like, we see it time and time again. When you have a known entity, it helps out. It builds that trust, makes it a little bit easier to kind of open up your wallet and spend the money. This works for movies and whatnot. But when I look at it in terms of like game development, becomes that risk. Yes, we could make a new game. Yes, we could make it. It's this thing. How do we manage that? And typically the answer is, well, we gotta remove as many barriers as possible, because these games don't compete in an isolated little bubble. Like if I was going to release an MMORPG, you have to recognize that at $15 a month subscription, like that's the cost of Game Pass, like that's the cost of this other thing. That's the cost of your Netflix subscription. And you're not only asking for somebody to compete with from $1 to $1, but for their time. And so, yes, the market has gotten bigger, but your competition is where you're kind of stepping into the arena. And that, I think, affects overall game prices. And so when gamers like myself complain about like free to play and microtransactions, like I just look at it and say, well, like, would you be willing to spend $100 on a single player game? And typically, like when the PlayStation announced like there was $70 going up the price, maybe it was just a bunch of Xbox people trying to like, start crap online. But I saw a lot of people like, I'm never going to pay $70. And my response when anybody, especially a gamer, says that they're never going to do whatever, I go, I'm just going to wait. Like I'm just gonna wait. I'm gonna copy this little thing that you wrote, because we're gonna revisit this. Because I bet like when the right game comes out, $70, I'll make it work. Like you'll find a way. Life finds a way.
I mean, I haven't yet.
You haven't spent $70 on a game yet on PlayStation?
Nope.
Playing those free to play Genshin?
No. I've I'm sure Soro knows there's a website called Shop2, legit gaming sites that sell video games, and they sell PSN cards on the cheap. So I can get like £70 worth of PSN cards for almost like £50.
Mm-hmm.
So I go buy that, pump it into my PSN, and digitally buy it for £50.
You should put out a video guide on that, man.
Yeah, saving some bucks, man.
How to save? Like that's a lot of money. That adds up.
Yeah, I mean, I always look around for these sorts of things when I'm buying. It has to be a really, really special game that I know I'm going to absolutely enjoy for me to spend £70. Like if Alan Wake 2 came out today, that would be a no-brainer. I would instantly, but it has to be a very special game. And as of right now, I haven't seen anything to fit that bill. I'm just going to use my circumstances as an example. I haven't seen a pay rise in where I'm working in about 2.5, 3 years.
Oh my
and
gosh.
With inflation going up and with prices going up, this is only adding to things. So it's not as simple as, it's only $10 they're adding on top. Everything else around you is also increasing with inflation, except for your livelihood. So it does add up. So I think for me, that's what it is. It's everything around me increases in price, whereas what I have, my salary diminishes every year.
Mm.
And that gap gets wider and wider and wider as everything's getting more and more expensive, while I'm earning less and less as appreciation value, let's just say. So that's why I always look around and find the best deal I can before I plunge in. So that's why, as of right now, I can proudly say that I have yet to spend $70, and I've got Returnal. I've got
was
Final Fantasy
Returnal
XIV remake.
$70 when it came out?
Yes.
Yeah, PlayStation games are 70 now.
All PlayStation 5 games, Sony PlayStation 5 games are $70. Activision has jumped onto that as well because Sony did. So a lot of PS5 specific games now are £70.
I think essentially that we'll see that natural shift in the price going to 70 over a course of time. Because I remember a time when it was 50, and I like that when we see games, especially like that have a range of prices, like starting at like 20, and then The other side of it is also the dip in the cost as the game lives on, right? So at some point, like you kind of see this natural equilibrium. So traditionally, I see, especially as games have existed for a while, $20 ends up being kind of this de facto price point that they mostly settle in on, unless you're Nintendo, and then you never decrease the price. Never decrease the price on those games.
But hey, I remember going to my newsagent and buying Commodore games for $3.99. For those that remember the Commodore 64.
I never had one of those. I didn't. My gaming career didn't start until like I went over to a friend who, interestingly enough, is named Chris, but it's not the Chris from Work to Game. And he showed me Super Mario Brothers 2, and that was pretty wild. I saw we were having some kind of Twitter thread of like, what was the first game you ever played? And I was like, Super Mario Brothers 2, and so that was a pretty wild time back in the old day. Probably.
That's what I paid for my first ever video game.
That's awesome, man. Shifting focus over, obviously, into, we've been talking about PlayStation this whole time. Sony had their event yesterday, and from the looks of it, some big deal announcements. I'd be very curious as to what stood out. Rory, anything stand out to you from the announcement showcase panel yesterday?
There's a couple of games that I'm interested in. So like we have that project from Korea that I hadn't really heard of before. It's from a studio called Shift Up. It's called Project Eve, which basically seems like it seems like that studio's take on a Bayonetta action type game. And it looked really, really good. I feel like some of the animations still aren't quite there yet. So that is one of the ones that definitely stood out for me. Then we have pretty much anything from Insomniac is always going to be on my radar because they did such a phenomenal. I mean, I've loved the first Insomniac game that I've played was actually the very first. What's the name of it? Infamous.
Yeah,
the very first Infamous, and I loved it. I thought it was amazing. And then, like on PS4, I played Second Son, and friggin' obviously Spider-Man is amazing. They're doing such a fantastic work with those games that it's just like Spider-Man 2 is going to be a no-brainer. Wolverine's also going to be a no-brainer. Super pumped about those. And then there's a bunch of stuff that I didn't really care for, like GTA 5 Remastered. I even made a joke in my video. I was like, oh, and then they announced Skyrim. Oh, no, wait, it's the other one. Because they keep remastering and remaking, and it's just like, stop. It just needs to, they can't keep getting away with it. Bethesda and Rockstar just like keep re-releasing these games. But overall, it's like I thought it was a medium showing. I wouldn't say that I was like blown away. I know that people in chat are saying Knights of the Old Republic. I think that's really cool, but it's a 20-year-old game almost.
The value in Knights of the Old Republic coming back is, I think, from a like historic person. Yeah, I think it's important. Don't get me wrong. I think it's super important. I'm just saying I've played that game. I'm not maybe as hyped as some of the people that hold it in higher regard, but I'm happy that it's coming. I'm still happy that it's coming because like there's plenty of games that I would like to see get the remaster treatment, but it doesn't happen. Yeah, it doesn't happen to every game. That's why I was like, when I saw that on Twitter, I was like, oh, that's actually really good. Yeah, I think it's PlayStation 5 exclusive. The questions I always have is that a time to, when it comes to exclusivity, which I'm anti-exclusivity in all cases, I'll continue to say that Halo should come to PlayStation. Bethesda should come to play. Like, I don't like any of this locking games down permanently in any one environment because I think that people should play where they want to play. If they continue to lock things down permanently, what's going to happen is I think consoles will going to just completely get wiped out because people will shift to PC where everything eventually ends up, right? Like, that's just the pattern. That's just what we're seeing happen in the market. It'll probably be another decade before we really see the fully fleshed out, like, what does this even look like? What does this mean for gamers? But that's just when it's like when these deals are happening, I do get concerned. I've been against the Bethesda exclusivity on the Microsoft side. But let's just talk about how exclusivity is funded. Go ahead.
I forgot two things. Oh my God, dude. It's like I haven't slept too much today.
You're good.
I forgot Forspoken, dude.
Yes.
Dude, that game, you want to know what's so special about that game? It's not even just like the combat and all that. It's one thing that's very important. I've brought this up like 2 or 3 times already today, but it is traversal. You know how so many people make like an open world game and they're like, oh yeah, it's got a massive world, but they never really bothered to think about how are the players going to traverse this world. And it seems like the traversal in that game is going to be really, really cool. You see her jumping on roofs and doing like almost teleportation, and then the grappling hook and all of that stuff. That game has me super pumped. That is one of the games that I'm most pumped for. But the one that I'm actually most pumped for is God of War. God of War. I assume you haven't played it, Brian, right?
Oh yeah, I haven't played it.
You've never played the original.
No, I've tried. I'm just not a God of War fan. Not a fan. I just don't like it.
It's so good. That game's amazing.
Y'all can leave me on. It's like, it's just, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be something I'm not. Like, it's you should. At some point, like, again, there's a lot of factors, right? Like a lot of the, especially that, like, I tried playing the old God of Wars back on like PlayStation 3 and stuff like that. Just, like, okay, like it's not really resonating with me. And then obviously, like when I have kids, like when am I going to play that kind of game? I've seen in terms of games that I play, like they've gone from M to T to E, like in that regards from a rating perspective. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh man, yeah, God of War is great. Like I would say, yeah, man, I hear God of War is great. Like, I to sit down and try to find time to fit it into a schedule. Like, just ain't going to happen, Yeah.
I guess I'm the only one that was disappointed with Forspoken.
Okay, talk about that.
I just really didn't like the animation, and the dialogue was beyond cringe.
Are they going to kill chaos? Kill chaos?
They don't know where I live. It's fine. And I've hid in my background, so they'll never know where I am. But I really didn't like the animation. It really wasn't off-putting. The overall dialogue that was in place as well, just it ruined immersion. It just didn't sit well with me. I know a number of people also feel the same way. I mean, the whole, verticality aspect, traversal aspect was cool, but the animation of the character seems to have hit a really big downgrade, which I didn't like. It just looked bad. But the overall voiceover was just, it was terrible. To me, it was really, really bad, and I really didn't enjoy it at all. I really hope when it comes out, they'll fix that sort of thing. But
did they give any release date on that yet?
No.
Okay.
So it went from an instant buy to a not instant buy for me. That's how much I was indifferent about it.
My problem with the whole Sony thing is that, especially as we look at Spider-Man 2 going into 2023, I mean, it's kind of a plus and a minus. Like, with shortages and not being able to get hardware, like, it's so crazy to think that we're coming up on another holiday a year after these consoles have launched, and they're still in massive amount. Like, the issue with it isn't that these, like, whether you're Xbox or PlayStation, like, both are really good systems. The issue is that they aren't easy to obtain. And I don't remember anything like this outside the Wii. I remember when the Wii was out, like, it felt like it was constantly, you never found one. You find one on a shelf, you buy it because thousands of people who are like, if you see one, you got to let me know. I want to get a Wii for my grandma. It's like, so great. Like outside of that situation, it's just like, yeah, I'm looking at these games for PlayStation, obviously like Final Fantasy Origins, obviously Final Fantasy 16, obviously like I even Forspoken, like dialogue and whatnot, like I'm not necessarily worried about it, but those are definitely on my radar. Spider-Man 2, Wolverine, couldn't be happier with the studio behind Wolverine.
That is, yeah.
That is the right pairing because of the pedigree, but also the character. Like, does anybody remember back in the day when video games were paired with their movie components, and they were like the game was always this rushed, like it was like maybe
it was terrible.
Maybe it had a couple of redeeming things. Like maybe there was like one thing or two things. Like, I'm saying like it was a legit 5, right? Like it was a legit middle of the road, like the game you could play it all the way through to the end.
You're being very generous with that 5. There were plenty of games that were just
there's some that were just hot trash. Like what was it, the Noid, and like all the different marketing campaigns and stuff like that. But when the fact that Insomniac's behind the Wolverine, like that, I think is probably going to be a must buy for me. I've really enjoyed that as a character. It's weird, right? So here we have to contrast we have the Guardians of the Galaxy announced as a part of like Square Enix. They have Marvel's Avengers, but then we see Marvel jumping over here to be Spider-Man and Wolverine. What do you like, Sora? You haven't said anything for a while. Did you have anything that you took off from the PlayStation event or the whole Wolverine thing?
So there's actually a couple that we touched on, like Forspoken. I definitely am excited about. I do get where Chaos is coming from with the voice acting not matching up correctly and just a couple things here and there. But I the way that the gameplay looks, I do enjoy. It looks phenomenal in my mind. So really excited about that. The only problem is I need to get a PlayStation 5 first.
Yeah.
Blood Hunt. That looked really good to me. But I also am a tabletop RPG player. So it does remind me of like a Vampire of the Masquerade tabletop game. Like just the immersion that I get playing that gives me that feeling, which I do enjoy. Deathloop is interesting in my mind.
Okay.
It kind of mashes Borderlands and Cyberpunk together is the way that I kind of looked at it.
Okay.
So I'm kind of on the fence about that one. Spider-Man looked really good. The trailer looked amazing. God of War's trailer looked really, really good, but I got to go back and play some of the other ones first.
The strength
You
of
just need-
both. Go ahead and go.
You just need to play the 2018 one. You don't have to play the other ones before that.
Yeah, like I played 1, 2, 3, like the original ones, and then kind of took a break from it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's
I'll have
like
to go back.
The 2018 version kind of just like it's very welcoming to complete newcomers. It's even though it's not separated, it's not like, oh, this is just Kratos in the north. No, it's like he still has this whole story behind him, but it's like you don't need to know that story in order to enjoy the story that is told in that one. But I would advise you to play that one before Ragnarok. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I want to keep the story in line. So yeah, I'll go back and I'll play that one. What else was there? And going back to how I was saying, I'm an RPG or tabletop RPG player as well. Tiny Tina.
For the Borderlands, yeah.
For Borderlands, that just looks so much fun because it is taking a tabletop RPG aspect and throwing it into a video game. Like just hardcore, here, make a character that's a fantasy, orc, kind of thing. And just the whole aspect of them rolling dice and having the D20 and everything like that in the world and having just a fallen pop can, sitting there as a waterfall. Like, I think that's pretty neat.
The thing I have to say, like, real positive about what I appreciate about Sony is that when you look at the fact that they're showing trailers in that regard, especially for Spider-Man, they've already got, like, you already know that Spider-Man and like its semi non-expansion with Miles Morales is a great game. Like, you already know that. Like, they repeat that and then, and then some. And so it's like, all in all, like, I think that's all they need to show. I'm not, you don't have to sell me on anything but that. And then even same kind of concept with God of War. And that's from Sony continuing to put that time into their franchises to continue to say, like, it's not ready, let's delay it. You look at Ghost of Tsushima, you look at, just a lot of their franchises, they have a lot of love in that regards. And I think that's one of the things that when you look at them delaying Horizon, like that's, I think, a strength. Like, it's a bummer in the short term, but when those games launch, they're going to be something. They're going to be a moment in time that's where the conversation shifts within gaming. Like, have you played the new Wolverine game? Have you played the new Spider-Man game? Like, oh man, can you believe this moment? So I think all in all, like, Sony doesn't have, like, it's this weird situation. We talked about the global supply. Like, it's not an easy fix. There's no like we've seen it with Square Enix. We've seen it like when they're trying to acquire servers, like everybody is fighting over very limited supply right now. And that becomes this bigger issue that I don't think is going to resolve itself anytime soon. Rory, you look like you got a thought.
I can't even buy a consumer grade computer. How the hell are they supposed to buy servers?
Yeah.
Like I'm not even joking. Listen, I bought a computer and let me tell you what happened. Portuguese mail destroyed my computer. It was perfect. It had everything that I wanted because I didn't know that they use Portuguese mail as a carrier. Because Portuguese mail is atrocious. It's terrible. And it's like the computer was properly packaged, like perfect. It was perfectly insulated from anything that could happen. And you know what the Portuguese mail said? Like, is that a challenge?
Oh, man.
Is that a challenge? Like, listen, you know how you have the PCI Express and your card goes into the PCI Express slot? And there's like a locking mechanism on it, right?
Yeah.
When this computer got here, the card was like this. Outside of the PCI Express slot on the side of the locking mechanism. I was like, I wouldn't even be able, I would barely be able to do this with my hands because that thing locks so goddamn tight. How did you do this? They destroyed it. It was like the whole thing was bent, like the PCI Express card was bent. I was like, oh, thanks. And now I can't even buy a computer. I'm not joking. I've been trying to buy a computer for like at least 3 months.
Yeah.
And I can't buy like a good hardware computer.
I ordered my computer in January and it showed up and it wasn't working. And so they worked on it and it came back. I finally got it in June. Like it was like, that was the most insane experience that I've had in my PC buying career, right? Like, it's like, okay, yeah, order PC. And then, okay, it comes at the end of March. Like it wasn't like it was at the beginning of March. We're talking about, it was like 3 months for it to even show up. Had to send it back, and there was like another 2 months because it was a problem with the RAM, so they had to replace the RAM, and then it was like waiting in line for RAM because everybody's trying to buy all of this stuff, and it's like, oh my gosh, like it's just this crazy
crypto
experience.
miners, dude. I hate them.
Crypto miners and scalpers.
Oh, and
between the two of them, they've completely and utterly crippled the economy in terms of electronic goods, really, and it's horrible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And like I was talking with Brian, I messaged him, what was last week or something? About an issue with, so I use a laptop instead of a desktop. I know I'm a horrible person, but I can't just afford a brand new desktop computer. And if I were to do a desktop, I'd buy it piecemeal and build it my damn self.
Yeah.
Because that's also where my background is in electronics, is building my own stuff. And I'd much rather do it myself, knowing exactly what I'm buying instead of somebody else putting it together and having what Rory's issue was in shipping. But we were troubleshooting my laptop and everything. I've been having network card issues, it seems. And we kind of came to the conclusion that was the motherboard. Now, luckily, tech support, the warranty that I have on it is top grade warranty. So they're coming out either tomorrow or Monday to replace the motherboard at my house. Like they're coming to do it here instead of me having to take it somewhere.
Well, that's really
or
quite
ship
nice.
it somewhere.
Yeah, like I've seen that in business where it's like, okay, and then a tech will come and do the swap out on site. But that's great, dude. Congrats on that. That makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, they're coming to my location to do the swap. I'm like, you guys can just send me the board. I'll do it myself. They're like, no. We
got to guard these boards. Like people try to steal them. Yeah, we got to watch for those scalpers and like the Fast and the Furious, like running up on trucks trying to steal all the PC parts because they're hot commodity.
Plus, their thing is having a certified technician, like certified in their product, to come out to do it, so that they know it's done. It's done right to their standard.
Right. Absolutely.
So I'm like, great, to your standard, but is it going to be to my standard? Because my standard might be way up here, and your standard might be below that. So I just want to make sure that we're on the same page here.
Now, I do want to ask Chaos this, because you've been tweeting and making some videos like this, a little bit of topic shift, because I think, all in all, I think overall, I think generally positive on the PlayStation event. outside of like Chaos's Forspoken, you know. Go ahead. I was gonna say, like,
for me, it was a mediocre event.
It was what?
For me, it was mediocre.
It was kind of short.
Borderlands, I didn't have. I mean,
does anybody else here have a PS5? More. I'm just curious. Does anybody else here actually have a PS5? I know Chaos. Okay, so it's Chaos versus Rory. Fight.
No, I mean, I don't have a dog in this. I can see where it would be mediocre. It just depends on what you're interested in. Like, to me, you said positive. I'm like, I'm kind of okay. I'm kind of like, you know, it was all right. Didn't really. I could see why Chaos would say, "Oh, it's mediocre," because like I have Forspoken. I really like Forspoken. He didn't like Forspoken, and that kind of just like is enough to shift it over
one way or the other
side.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. So, Chaos, I do want to let you finish your thought because I was generally curious because it's like if you're the only one with a PS5 and you were coming off going like, man, and all of us like, we can't get a PS5. Like, at least I could watch a trailer.
If somebody wants to send me one, like, all for it, you know?
I don't think this podcast is that big, Soro. Sorry.
So, like Rory, I was blown away by Project Eve. I've been following Project Eve for about a year now. Trying to keep up with any scraps of information I can. So when I first saw it announced via their small trailer they released last year, I'm a massive fan of that game. Like Rory said, that's like a Bayonetta and Nier Automata had a baby, and then they created this. That's the perfect analogy for it. Mm-hmm. Gran Turismo 7 just didn't wow me at all. Then again, I'm not that much of a racing fan, but it didn't take me anywhere. God of War looked cool. I'm a little concerned that Cory Barlog isn't actually directing it this time.
One of the same person. No,
I know, right? It's a disguise.
Yeah, it's a disguise.
That's a real red flag for me. That's a real red flag for me because he's a magician when it comes to directing games, and he's hands off with this one. I like the way they got Thor correct. They got him closer to his Norse mythology actual design, and added a bit of God of War mix to it, which is cool. Borderlands don't have much interest in that. I can never get into them. Tokyo Ghostwire looked interesting. I'm a fan of that kind of era. There's an MMO called Secret World Legends, which it kind of heavily is influenced by, which was cool. But overall, outside of Project Eve, which really made me go, wow, Alan Wake was another one, the remaster. I'm really happy PlayStation fans are finally getting to experience that. That is up there in the top 3 of my favorite games of all time. I highly recommend, if you have a chance to play it, it's on PC as well, play it. It's fantastic. You will not be disappointed with that game. There wasn't much else, and the fact that everything was 2023, Wolverine, I mean, they're obviously working on Spider-Man 2 first, so I expect Wolverine to come after that.
Yeah, well, they didn't show much of Wolverine at all, so it was just
it's like 2024, 2025. I wanted to see what was coming next year. And outside of Gran Turismo, I didn't see anything else from that presentation that was coming next year. I think Borderlands Little Tina's coming as well next year.
You mean first party, because Forspoken's next year as well.
I think that's going to get delayed.
Yeah.
I can see that getting delayed after what I saw, but we'll see.
The other side of the coin is one of the things is that the next event is also TGS, and so there's probably like, I think maybe that ends up from a Japanese perspective, seeing what's focused on.
I don't know. This was supposed to be their swan song. They delayed it for so long. The expectation for this to deliver in spades. I mean, maybe the expectation got the better of me, and maybe the hype for Sony's presentation to just completely blow everyone out of the water is why I feel the way I am. But I expected a lot more from this presentation. I expected to see a lot more big hitters, like the Final Fantasy XIV. Like, I know it's just first party, but Alan Wake isn't first party. Neither is Star Wars KOTOR. So
right.
They were putting, it's not just first party presentations. I just expected, after waiting for so long since E3, for them to come out with something a bit more better to say, hey, we've got all these coming, but in about 4 years' time. If you got a PS5 right now, you got to wait until 3 years before you can finally get some cool games. Because that's the message that they were giving me. And that's where I felt it was a bit muddy.
I was actually seeing the reaction of another content creator yesterday because I wasn't able to stream this due to some family stuff I had to take care of. But this other creator said that he had been following like a bunch of media sources, and it turns out that according to what he was saying, like there was a lot of media sources hyping this up, and even Sony themselves saying, like, you know how sometimes they'll be like, "Hey, keep your expectations in check," and then this time it was the opposite. Like they were going, "No, dude, it's going to be wild. Like, prepare to be blown away." I think there apparently was some type of messaging like that. So it doesn't surprise me that, you know, this is probably going to end up biting them in the ass a little bit. But you do have a point. Like, other than Forspoken and a couple of other things, the stuff that is coming next year isn't even that new, right? You got GTA 5 remaster. Who the hell wants GTA 5 remastered?
I didn't even play this.
I started laughing when I saw that.
I laughed when I saw that the first time around. There was like one of PlayStation's presentations where they opened their show with GTA 5.
Yeah, they did.
Like, I was like, what are you doing? What is this? This is not why people bought a PlayStation. Yeah, I get it. They both have a 5. PlayStation 5, GTA 5 makes sense, but actually not quite.
It's an interesting thing because it's like, I think just from expectations key. Expectation is always going to be absolutely key. And we see this happen time and time again. And I think one of the thing I take away, because I look at, you know, the Sony announcements and I go, great. Like there are definitely things that when I'm able to find a PS5 that I want to play. My PS4 died and I was like, I'm going to wait till PS5. And unfortunately, that is a long wait. Like that, like I had it in my cart multiple times, Target, and it just doesn't. And to the point where, okay, well, maybe there'll be a Final Fantasy XVI Special Edition PS5, you know, and then it'll be great. Like, okay, I'll get that, and we'll see. And at this point, I'm like, will there be a PS5 Slim? And, you know, based off of kind of the trajectory. If nothing else, the nice thing, as always, is we'll see. The nice thing about overall, as time progresses, we should see, you know, things ease up. But my perspective on whether it's Xbox or Sony and these events, I've really thinking that COVID has hit us like everybody hard, like supply, you know, demand, and then at the same time, just like trying to coordinate these teams and deliver content. And so that is still happening. I just don't think it's happening at a pace that we're as gamers expecting. And so, but nobody could have prepared for that. Nobody could have been like, okay, guys, we need to start working on Spider-Man 2, you know, 5 years prior, because at the last leg of this, you know, we're going to get hit by a global pandemic. So that way we'll have something to release in 2022. And and I think everything is just kind of being hit by that aspect. And so when people talk about Forspoken delays, like I fully expect like things are going to continue to get delayed. There's going to be challenging things that happen. And that's just, I think that's just the sucky reality we live in right now.
I also think that like, to Chaos's point, Sony needed to put on, something maybe even a little bit above and beyond due to the controversies that they've been involved with that little nickel and diming of like, the $10 upgrade. It's like every time that I read a headline like that, I'm just like, Sony, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, serious? It's the $10. We need $10 more. Like, you've already developed it. Just give it to people. It's like, that's one of the things that when I was initially reviewing the PlayStation 5, that was the thing that I instantly pointed out. It was my biggest complaint. It's like, I don't understand how my PlayStation 5, I put in the code to get Spider-Man and Miles Morales, and it downloaded 4 games, which was Spider-Man PS4, Spider-Man PS5, Miles Morales PS4, and Miles Morales PS5. And I'm like, why? It doesn't bother me. Like, I have 100 megabits of internet. It's not a problem. I don't have like a data cap, but why? Why did it do that? You see? And then you have Microsoft on the exact opposite end of the spectrum going like, no, here's smart delivery. Like, I was watching a video by this guy called Ackman the other day, and the dude pulls out an original, not Xbox 360, an original Xbox disc, and he puts it inside the Xbox Series X, and it just downloads a game. And I'm like, what do you mean? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Like
would've
that's
thought?
legit. That's legit
Yeah.
amazing. And meanwhile, I'm over here with my PS5 that downloaded 4 different versions of Spider-Man. What the fuck?
Yeah. Who would have thought that Microsoft's smart delivery is one of the best selling features
It
of the
is.
Xbox ecosystem? It hands down. Like it's like, oh, you download it's going to know what you need. You want you got 4K. Here's the 4K assets. You don't have it because that's something that's not even talked about. Like it will understand like, oh, you're not even outputting in 4K. Well, we're not going to have to download all that extra stuff. Like, okay, you want to do this? We're going to handle that for you. And that ends up just becoming this clear internet fodder, between the two platforms, right? Like, okay, like I always say, play where you want, like whatever your ecosystem like that you prefer, great. Like it doesn't matter to me. I'm platform agnostic. I do wish, I see chat talking about how wishing that these games are coming to PC. Sony has said that that's the fact. They're going to be bringing these games to PC as well. My thought on Sony's plan is it's probably going to be where it's PlayStation exclusive timed, and then eventually it will roll out to PC. But I think essentially what happened, what we see here, is that Microsoft had to get competitive because Sony kicked their ass with PS4, and Microsoft said, "Okay, let's actually think about 2030." And now Sony's caught off guard. Sony's just kind of like, "Oh, crap. Well, how do we do it? Download them all. Just give them all." Like rather than like, we're gonna have to charge them for this because like they don't have the architecture and the process and the policies. And it's like all of this stuff is like, wait a minute, we were used to how we did it on PS4, and just like the PS4 benefited from the 360, and so it's like right now I see Microsoft just from how everything kind of just works together. I can play my games on PC. I can play my games on console. Like I just buy the one game and it's good. It makes me want to put my money over in that bucket as opposed to like, what do you mean I have to pay for this upgrade? Well, then it tells me I'll just wait. Like I'm not saying I'm not going to buy your Spider-Man, but if I can't get a PS5 and you're like, oh, Spider-Man's also on PS4, but then there's an upgrade, like I'll just wait. I will just wait and I'll buy it. Because we know that game price, you're not Nintendo, game prices fall. So
it's one of the things that's actually gotten me considering, because like I like the convenience of consoles.
Yes. Oh, hands down.
Because like, for instance, to give you an idea, right? I have this office space that I work in, and then I go home, and I'm not going to take my PC home with me, but it's it's super easy to just grab the PS5, put it on a backpack, take it home. So that's one of the things that I really like about consoles. And this whole thing about, the $10, it's just like, it's got me thinking like, I don't know, dude, I might just end up at one point getting an Xbox. Cause like, I don't like the way that this is going, this whole nickel and diming thing. Like it just feels cheap, when a publisher like this is like trying to nickel and dime over $10 of something that they've already created. It's like, not to mention that on top of it, there's the whole situation with the shortage of the console to begin with. Like you said, Brian, it's like, you're going to wait. It's like, are you imagine like, Spider-Man 2 comes out tomorrow, but you don't have a PlayStation 5. You're not going to buy it for PlayStation 4. Why would you? They're going to ask you for more money later. It's like, you might as well wait until like the price goes down. And then you just pick it up then on when you would potentially get a PS5 or something.
Yeah. Same thing with the save files though. Like it's not even about the $10. Like I've seen people have to jump through hoops to migrate their save files.
The Miles Morales one. Was it the Miles Morales one? Yeah, the Miles Morales one wasn't even supported on release. So like I had a save file on PS4 and I couldn't even import it onto PlayStation 5 when the game came out.
I'm
a massive Control fan. If you've played that game,
I have seen it.
It's really good. So I've completed the base game, completed the first DLC. I'm on the second DLC. And then they announced the Ultimate Edition with the high-res graphics, ray tracing, and everything. So I stopped playing, and I was really excited because I was going to pick up the Ultimate Edition. I know they were recharging for it, which is weird because it's the same game, just packaged into with all DLC. But I was okay with it. The game was so good, I was happy to buy it again with the higher graphic fidelity. And then they announced, sorry, your saves won't transfer. It's exactly the same game, exactly the same code base, but your save won't work on it because this one is the Ultimate Edition. Then Sony fuck up. Pardon my French.
It's okay. Rory's already broken the swear gap.
Release
why
the
are you
game.
apologizing?
Release the game accidentally to everyone for free. Anyone that had Control got a free upgrade to the Ultimate Edition. The few people that actually started Control when that happened had the Ultimate Edition, and their save file worked. Right? So they converted it. Then Sony realized the mistake, deactivated everyone's account that had that game, so they had to re-download Control, so their save file no longer worked because it was on the Ultimate Edition. But those people like me who weren't lucky enough to get caught in that tangle, Remedy Games and 505, whichever one of them was, went and actively disabled the save transfer. So now you can't do it.
I have a weird question, and let me know if there's, if I'm just reading the room wrong. Why is it the two PS5 owners in this room are very mad at Sony right now, and the two people who can't have a PlayStation are like, I guess it's okay.
Trying to get one? Still trying to get one?
Like,
it's because listen, if you think back to 2013, right? What was like one of PlayStation 4's biggest wins? It was when during that E3 presentation when Microsoft was just like completely foot in mouth, like a really bad case of foot in mouth, where they were like, "Oh, if you need an offline console, we have a solution for you. It's the Xbox 360." It's like that has to be one of the dumbest things. Or the other guy who goes like, "Oh, you don't have an online connection where you live? Why do you live there?" It's like, what? Excuse me? It was like, there were some really bad Microsoft takes back then, right? And they were like, always online, DRM, all of this nonsense. And Sony just walks on stage. No, they didn't. They had a video, I think, in backstage video,
how
whatever.
do you trade your games?
They're just like, here's how I can loan a game to my friend, and they pick up the copy and they give it to them, and it just works, right? You see, Microsoft, if they were petty, here's what they could do now. They'd be like, here's how you can play our game from Xbox One, and they would pick it up and they would put it in the console, and it would download like the higher res version or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's like, that's what they could do, because that's the thing. It's like, the reason I'm mad is because I'm seeing way too many anti-consumer practices. And just to be completely clear here, I don't pay for at least up until this point. I'm very privileged because I work with PlayStation Portugal. I don't pay for Sony first party titles. I just get them. I didn't pay for my PlayStation 5. I got it for free.
Well, some people.
No, yeah, exactly. It's like, but it's like, here's the thing. I've always said, and I'll always say with anyone that works with me, is like, listen, I'm always going to give it to you true and raw. It is what it is. It's like, I still love the console. I'm playing it right now. I have friggin' Tales of Rise running on it right now. I love the console. I think it have that problem that it doesn't have the smart delivery system, and it should have. But it's like, they are definitely doing a lot of stuff that I think is anti-consumer. And if me saying that caused them not to send me games, it is what it is. But hopefully not.
I mean, this whole Horizon Forbidden West thing, where they were going to charge when they originally said it was going to be a free upgrade. And I've had a lot of people like give me a lot of flack for my view on this, where I feel it should be free. Because as a publisher, they promised. If they hadn't promised, I would be totally okay with it. But if you put your word on it, that word has to mean something. If they charge for all the others, fine, do what you need to do. But if you promised that X, Y, and Z game are going to be free upgrades, then I expect those games to be free regardless.
Yeah, but they've done it. They've done it though. They
only after peer pressure.
Yeah. After they got backlash, they were like, okay, fine, we'll do it. I guess we'll do what we said we were going to do.
If there was no peer pressure, they would have just left it and charged people.
Yeah. Right.
That's the only thing I was against. But I do love my PS5. Hands off.
Yeah, see, there you go. We still like it at the end of the day because it's a good system. Like it's silent, like especially coming off of the PS4, dude. That thing could freaking lift off.
Dude, I used to get calls from Heathrow Airport just to see if the runway was clear when I put my PS4 on. I'll be curious to see how like Sony kind of adapts to the new model. They've already kind of talked internally about some of these things, but at the end of the day, like y'all aren't selling me on PlayStation. It's great, except for it's like they got to fix that. They got to fix it. It's not a hardware issue. It's a just how their system is. Like software. I think it's the back end.
Here's the thing: it's very easy for me to sell people on a PlayStation. It's like, you want to play some Demon Souls? Hey, you want to play? I don't know. You want to play Ghost of Tsushima, like the best looking version of Ghost of Tsushima?
You want to play Final Fantasy 14?
You want to play Final Fantasy 16?
16 too.
The 7 remake.
Microsoft has no killer
high
titles.
res.
7
That's the
remake.
problem.
Yeah, that is the thing. I mean, they
With
have
the
some.
DLC.
They have some cool titles,
No.
but
Cool, but they
I
don't
think-
have killer titles. Halo
but
is the only one.
here's the thing. I think that Microsoft is going to be bleeding, at least for a couple of years still, with the Xbox brand. But like many people have said, I think they're much better positioned for the future. They're
Yeah.
way better, especially after Sony keeps putting their foot in their mouth. It's like, come on, dude, like $10. Who cares? It's $10. And here's the thing: stuff like this is what kills word of mouth. Because, like, for instance, some people will read this and they might have a PlayStation. They're gonna feel it feels bad, right? For you to like you buy a PlayStation game and then you're like, oh no, I have to pay $10 for this upgrade, where they're doing it for free on the other platform. Like, it feels wrong, and that causes people to maybe not recommend their friend to get a PlayStation. And that's what PlayStation is beginning to lose. They're beginning to lose their customer goodwill.
But there's also 2 SKUs on the PlayStation, right? I can walk into a shop right now and buy a PS4 version of a game or a PS5 version of a game. I can come home, plug it into my computer, and it will give. If I buy the PS5 version, I will play the PS5 version. If I came home today, and just hypothetically, for whatever reason, because your internet can go down, but let's just assume you've got a cut, you're off internet for a week, you plug your new game in from the Xbox Series X, you will play the Xbox One version of the game. You will not play the Series X version. There is no way to go out right now and buy a Series X game. The disc only holds the Xbox One game. It will look at your console and see which version you've actually got, and then download the appropriate files. The good thing about this is in the future, if they decide to release 6 renditions of the Series X, that smart delivery can still see the machine serial number or whatever it's looking at, the IMEI code or whatever, and determine, yep, you've got Xbox V, Xbox S, Xbox T, and download the appropriate one.
Yeah.
Sony is still head-on focused on console delivery, and they're not investing as into the cloud yet. I know PlayStation Now is there and it's improving, but they don't see PlayStation Now as Game Pass. They see that as a supplement for older titles, and they've recently started putting newer titles on there on a timed basis. Those newer games aren't there full time. They do come off after a couple of months. But with Microsoft, the way they're looking at the whole infrastructure, they're looking at making everything online in the cloud, and the consoles there are just a conduit for that version. And I think that's the difference. If I go and buy a game on Xbox, it's a single disc. With Sony, they have to produce 2 versions of that. And what they're saying is, if you buy the PS4 version, that's fine. But if you want the PS5 version after that, the PS5 version costs $10 more. So we're just charging you the difference. Now, you as a consumer can decide, I want to wait because I don't have a PS5. And when I've got my PS5, then I'll go on a shopping spree, buy what I want. But right now, that's the approach they're going for. I personally think it's not so bad because they're not charging you an additional $70 for the game. They're giving you a $10 upgrade path. But it's because they don't have the same strategy going forward as Microsoft. Microsoft wants everyone unified in the cloud gaming. I mean, if you look at, for example, Ascent recently came out on the Xbox, and it's on Game Pass, right? That game receives slower updates on PC than the Steam version, because when they have to update the PC version of Ascent on Game Pass, it still has to go through that week of certification at Microsoft. The Steam version, however, has no certification. It's instant update. And that now creates other problems for Microsoft, which they need to get over. They need to remove that hurdle. So though the Microsoft platform is more accessible, it still has its own problems. It might not be affecting the consumer as much, but there was a lot of bugs with Ascent that were affecting the PC community, where the PC community on the Game Pass side of things had to wait almost 2 weeks before they could get the updates, because Microsoft's certification process took so long to certify it to go onto Xbox Live, onto the Microsoft servers, so they could download the update. Whereas Steam users had it like that as soon as it was available.
Yeah.
So it's touch and go. It's it's hand in hand. They've just got different strategies, in my opinion, and it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Xbox Live, for example, I can see being hit by this because, I'd play if I've got an option now to play a game on my Xbox Series X or PC. Half the time, I play it on my PC. If I'm playing it on my PC, or if I can't play with my friends on Xbox Live, I have to play the Xbox. I have to download the Game Pass version, which is a horrible client on PC right now. It has a lot of problems.
Yeah, it does.
But I have to go through that, and it's horrible.
I upgraded to the Steam version of PSO because I was like, all right. Even the Windows Store was like, sorry, you're up to date. And then I launched the game. It's like, please up to the game. And I'm like, over on Steam, it's like, it's just handled. Yeah, it's just handled, man. I was like, oh, this is rough.
I'm going to throw a wrench in this real quick.
Sure.
Here we go.
So I by nature am a patient person.
Okay.
Right. So I have no problem waiting until any
he already
of this.
Looks angry. Just go ahead.
Yeah, I have no
I'm
problem waiting until any of this comes out on PC, Steam, Xbox, Game Pass. I have no problem waiting for any of that. Now, if it comes out on Steam, here comes the Steam Deck coming out.
Yep.
Okay. PlayStation has a 1 year, 2 year exclusive on God of War, for instance. I'm not saying they do. I'm just throwing that out there. I still can't get a PlayStation 5 for that 1 to 2 years that it's the exclusive for it. Okay, cool. My Steam Deck pre-order is in. They're saying it's coming out end of this year, mid next year, something like that. Sure, I'll wait. I'll have the Steam Deck. I can just play it wherever the hell I feel like it.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why for Tales, I'm gonna get this on Steam.
Exactly. I'll get it on Steam, and then I'll just play it wherever I feel like it.
God of War is a terrible example, though.
I understand. I'm just you understand where I'm coming from with that, right?
Yeah. Like Final Fantasy 16, I think would make a lot more sense. But yes.
Yeah. So okay, let's switch that over to 16. It's an exclusive for a year. Then, I still don't have a PlayStation 5, but I have Steam. I have the Steam Deck. Cool. Now I can play it at the airport whenever I'm going out of town for work, instead of having to hook up a TV at the airport and hook up the PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
So like, I'll wait.
And the Steam Deck already works with like Xbox Cloud and works with
exactly
and works with like all these other things.
There's a desktop on it.
Yeah.
You know, so
absolutely.
I can play whatever.
Steam Deck runs on Linux, right?
Yeah,
it does, but it does have a Windows-esque desktop associated to it. If I'm not mistaken.
You have to install Windows on it.
You
can install Windows, but you have to do it. You have to get like a Windows license if you're doing it legally.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I can get a Windows license for $5.
It's perfectly legal.
But it's a genuine Windows license.
Yeah.
So, we need a hookup after this.
Okay, I'll show you.
He gets PlayStation games for free. You get Windows for $5, and it's like, yeah, we're making deals, people. And this is going to be referenced in court.
The only thing I have to say against what Soro just said is, I don't always have the opportunity to play games on release because I'm just busy.
Right.
I've got work, kids.
Yeah, me and this guy, team of 5, Sora with this one child.
Yeah.
So I don't always get the option, but I like to play games at least close to release. I don't want to play them 3 years down the line or have to wait 3 years to play God of War. For big titles, I want to play them as they come out and enjoy it and talk about it with friends as I'm playing it. You lose all that.
Yeah, exactly. let's go around with final thoughts because like this is such an interesting conversation. I like how it evolved. I was literally about to like, and then you got Steam Deck, and then I don't know what the F Nintendo's doing. Like, it's like they're not doing their job, and so Steam's like, fine, we'll make it. You know,
the thing about the Steam Deck though is that let's just be clear here. Steam has a terrible history with supporting their hardware. So it's like that Steam Deck does not necessarily fill me with confidence, you know? Like you know that the Switch is still going to be around for a while. And
I ordered the OLED edition because I'm like, you know, I'm a hypocrite because I'm like, yeah, Nintendo sucks. Take my money, Nintendo.
Nintendo sucks. Here's the check, sir.
Right. They're like, all right, like he clearly doesn't know how to communicate.
But yeah, it's like I don't have a whole lot of faith in it. It's like I like the idea of the Steam Deck, but I think it's going to end up like the other things like the Steam Link, the Steam controller, all of these things that are basically now defunct. Basically,
it's also they've given other manufacturers now the availability to create their own Steam Deck.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they did with the Steam box. Like they're like, yep, this is what we're making. And hopefully though, with mass adoption, we'll see more improvement of Linux. Even Windows 11 has a closer to Linux kernel. And so it's like overall, like cloud runs off of Linux if anybody isn't like aware. So it's like there is this movement in that regards. Any game that gets ported to Steam or ported to Stadia could run on Linux because Stadia is Linux based. The difference being that Luna is actually Windows based, which is fascinating. Fact of the day.
Stadia's still around?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stadia's doing just fine. They just don't have any first party that's what gamers are expecting, but I think they're just they've built out the technology, and I think they're just, I don't know, it's Google. Well, like they've either lost interest or they'll get interest again, or who knows.
I think they lost interest. It's going to be like the Google Plus thing, most likely, or any of the other million projects that Google just abandoned.
We didn't talk about on this podcast, and I like, and I'm looking at the time. I was like, it turns into a second podcast. But we have obviously we talked about it last week. YouTube making moves, picking up people. Their plan for Stadia is to have it fully integrated with YouTube in that regards. Whether you're like, hey, I'm streaming. Oh, I'm no longer on Twitch. Now I'm streaming on YouTube Gaming because they add X, Y, and Z feature. And then what their goal is that you literally can be like, oh, I see Brian playing 14. I'm going to click and boop. They're playing the game. Like, it's like, that is their ultimate goal. And that's what Stadia does. Like, you can literally just click it and you're in the game. And so that's where it'll be interesting to see if they can, if they haven't lost interest already. It is Google, but that's essentially what they're striving for. And that's what Twitch is striving for. But I think we're still, probably at least, 5 to 10 years away from that reality.
Like, even though I get emails every month saying, hey, claim your free games, I usually don't play any of them.
Yeah.
Like, I use Stadia for Destiny, Outriders, Cyberpunk, and then like there's a couple kids games that are in there for your free Stadia games that I'll just hand my daughter the controller and she'll go and play on the 75-inch TV in the living room. She's been playing SpongeBob a lot on that one. So she'll just go and play that, and I'll turn off, other players or something like that, and we'll sit down and play Monopoly as a family or something like that on there. So yeah, it's still there. I might use it differently than most people, but
it's the convenience.
Exactly.
It's a convenience platform.
Exactly. Like my consoles are actually in the basement because I don't have anywhere to put them upstairs. Well, no, I don't have anywhere to put them upstairs.
Get to the basement. Sorry.
So, like, the games that she would want to play on one of the consoles is either on her Switch or it's on Stadia.
Yeah.
So she either carries the Switch around and plays, or she'll play on Stadia on the TV. So, I mean, I have no problem with it.
Rock and roll.
I mean, I want more games to go cloud, whether it's xCloud or Stadia. I really don't care. The convenience of cloud and being able to play on anything is, I mean, over the past 2 or 3 weeks where I've literally been stationed at my desk and nowhere else for like the majority of the day.
Yeah.
Being able just to open my Chromebook or my browser and just where I've got like 15, 20 minutes to myself just to go and just do anything and clear my head has been a godsend. And the last 3 weeks have actually made me use cloud gaming more than I have ever. And now when I look for like certain games to play, I feel disheartened that there isn't a cloud version of it available where I could just instantly put on and just dive straight in.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a convenience platform. That's the only frustration that I have with xCloud, GeForce Now, and Stadia. It's like, okay, this game isn't here. All right,
Yeah,
coming. Well, and what you know what that does, and this is my final thought, and we should wrap up. It's like try to keep them in an hour, and here we go, hour number about to go into hour 2. Is that it defaults back to the games that are accessible, meaning like I love Destiny 2 now. Like I took a nice long break. That's healthy. But the things that frustrate me is that when I'm sitting down and I'm like, oh, maybe I got 10, 15 minutes, it'd be really fun is that if I could just jump into 14 with that. But no, it isn't. So I like literally will default to state like Destiny, which is a great option. I'm not complaining, but it's that when it comes down to when you have limited time, like when I've got all the time, like it's like I got a couple hours, like I'm going to come to my PC. I'm going to come to the premiere experience that I have. But when I'm like, oh, I just want to kind of jump in, dip in, then it's literally about like, okay, where is the easiest way to jump into that game and play? Rory, what's your final thought? You're looking over there menacing. Like,
well, you see, Brian, if you had a PlayStation 5, you could just boot up your phone and you could just play your game on your phone and it wouldn't even be a problem. See? And you don't need to go to the cloud to do that. You can do all that from your
You want to know my hold up is on that though? Like, because I can do the same thing with the Xbox. You know what my literal hold up is? And I don't even do the Stadia stuff on my phone. Is that literally like I have the controller and I have the connector and then I got to set up the phone. And that's where like the Steam Deck and that's where I wish the Switch I just want it. I'm lazy. Like it literally is like, what is the path of least resistance? So on the TV or on the PC is where I boot it up. And he's gone. All right. While he does whatever he's doing, I'm sure he's grabbing his phone. You already have it all hooked up? So you're already set up.
Yeah, dude. Listen. You have this thing and you just do this. Boom. You're good to go.
How's your connection? Mine is terrible.
That's fine. It all depends on the quality of your Wi-Fi, basically. If you have like good Wi-Fi, if you don't have a lot of 5G. Interference.
You need 5G.
I mean,
like that is
I'm on
the
a gigabit
requirement.
connection.
What?
I'm on a gigabit internet connection. My Wi-Fi is 5G, but the connection between my console and my PS5 and my phone it always goes pixelated. It's really bad. Maybe because there's metal shielding in this building.
You probably have interference. Yeah. But it's like, yeah. See, Brian, I have this thing already set up and good to go on my phone anytime I want.
See, and the thing is I don't have an extra like phone and I don't have an extra controller and I could get one.
What extra phone? This is my phone. I only have one.
Right, but I'm not like. So, true story, I know this keeps going. True story though, it's like I deleted everything of interest off of this device, and it has returned to me hours and hours and hours of my life. So, like, I don't have Twitter, I don't have like any of the YouTube stuff. I literally have nothing on it that outside of mail, text, phone, and it's great and maps. And it's like so when I get downstairs when I'm off work, I literally set the phone on its screen down. So even if somebody and I leave it be, and then I check in on it before bed. And see if I need to return my calls. Like, yeah, I'm kind of old. Yeah, I'm definitely giving excuses. Like, is it possible? Yes. Like, but I'm just saying, like, when it comes down to it, I feel I myself probably am more of that consumer of like, just make it easy. Don't because you have to buy those things. You have to do all that. Anyway, Chaos, what's your final thought?
My final thought is, I have no idea.
All right, Sora.
Final thought. Games is games. Do you like playing them? Play them.
Can we get a shirt with that? Games is games.
Games is games.
Get a PS5. That's my final thought.
Yeah,
well,
and then we can all bitch about it.
Since Rory's partner has ties to PlayStation,
yeah,
I might hit him up for sending me one.
All right,
I'll get him hooked up with the cheap Windows codes, and he'll get me hooked up with the PlayStation.
Yeah.
Thanks to chat for watching live. This thing's gone off the rails as we just kind of descent into madness. Hopefully you all enjoyed the podcast. This has been Epic Loot Radio, talking about the PlayStation, talking about Forspoken, talking about New World. We've got a lot coming up for you guys. Thank you for listening. Hopefully you have a fantastic day, and we'll see you next time. But until then, take care.